First of all, electrification, to electrificate public transportation is not only to replace diesel buses for battery buses. First of all, we need to work in parallel to electrificate it and at the same time to improve the quality of public transportation. I'm not sure in the numbers in India, but in different countries, we are losing passengers from public transportation to private cars, to 2 wheels or 3 wheels, or for ride-hailing services. And of course, it's not good. The best way to move people in cities is using massive transit connected to different solutions. But when we are losing passengers from massive transit to other models, we are reducing the capacity of the public transportation to be sustainable. We are reducing the sustainability, especially the financial sustainability. And when we are starting to reduce the financial sustainability, we started to lose the quality, to reduce the quality of service. And when we start to reduce the quality of service, we continue to lose the passengers. So we need to interrupt this cycle or to avoid this negative cycle. So we need to work together. And how can we improve the quality of public transportation? Infrastructure, it could be corridors. It is the ideal because the corridors bring reliability and time travel. But when it is not possible, if you can offer exclusive lanes for buses, it helps a lot. It helps a lot. Second, data and technology. We need to provide data for the users. The most important value for the users to choose the way that they will travel in cities is time travel and reliability. We choose public transport. If you have money to choose, we will choose considering these both values: time travel and reliability. Unfortunately, electrical buses cannot bring it alone. A diesel bus is stuck in the congestion is the same as diesel bus is stuck in the congestion. So to bring reliability and time travel, we need to invest and to support cities to design infrastructure and data and technology. So this is the first important component. We need to create we need to manage the barriers. Which are the most important barriers for electrification? First of all, it's financial barrier, because until now, the price, the capex, the capital cost to invest in buses remain higher than diesel buses. And the bus operators, in general, they are afraid to invest this money in front. So one important component to accelerate electrification is to design financial solutions. And here, Neha, I would like to point out the aspects of these pilot projects that we are observing around the world. Cities and bus operators are buying a small quantity of electric buses to test it. São Paulo just right now bought 15 buses. Santiago de Chile bought 200 buses. Bogotá bought 500 buses. Medellin another quantity, but small quantities, not expressive quantities. And it's a paradoxal because at the same time that pilot projects opens the door for electrical buses, it limits the massive electrification, because when you have a pilot project, we don't have the benefits of electrification. What is the most important benefit for electrification for the bus operators? It is to reduce the operational costs, the OPEX. But when you have a small number of buses, we don't reduce the cost, because you need to maintain the diesel operation, you need to maintain the diesel depot, the diesel maintenance, the diesel human resources. At the same time, you need to create electrification, electric infrastructure, electric human resources, electric depot. So we have the risk to increase the costs. We need to start to work to develop massive financial solution, to create an important funds to support large procurement of electric buses that will reduce the cost of the investment, because we will create a real scale for electrical buses. We will create, we will move the chain of the manufacturer chain, because we will have more providers, more suppliers, providers, and we will bring for the operators a real benefits to operate. Third component is to engage different stakeholders. The e-market brings different stakeholders for the market. For example, we need to engage the electrical distributors companies. They are, just right now, they are outside of the bus, the public transportation market by bus. They are in the metro market because they provide a lot of energy for metros and trains, but they are completely outside. It's a new market for these companies, and we need to engage them to take part in this chain. In Chile, for example, the electric distributor company, they bought the buses and they lease the buses for the operators. It's a good solution because they are make money to lease the buses, and at the same time they are making money because they are selling energy. And at the same time that you need to engage different stakeholders, we need to think it. We need to figure out different business models for public transportations, different ways to operate public transportation systems. I don't know exactly in India, but my first impression in my both visits in India, that is, India adopts the same model, the common model to hire bus operators. Bus operators are owner of the assets, they are owner of the buses, they are owner of the depots, and they are responsible to operate and to maintain the fleet. A new and modern way to hire bus operators is to split who will be owner of assets. One concessionaire, one private funding will be owner of the buses and depot, and a different company will provide the service. It has bring more efficiency, for example, in London and Singapore, two important cities that adopted this model. First of all, we have the city, the public authority, the public agency has much more power to regulate and to control the quality of service, because when we have a situation that the operator is not working well, it's easier for the public authority to replace the operator when the operator is not the owner of the buses. And you can hire operators for a short time because they don't have capital costs. They don't have capital risks. So each 5 years in London, they bid the lines. So the operators can be replaced easier. I like this kind of model. And Santiago de Chile, when they are decided to adopt e-buses, they decide to have this new model for hire bus operators. We have different levels, the national level and the local level. The role of national level is to develop a national policy that will incentivize the adoption of electrical buses. It could be in different ways. It could be a tax incentive to adopt bus electrification. China created a subsidy for bus electrification, and to create a national industry policy to incentivize the bus manufacturers to adopt electrical buses. And the most important role, in my opinion, just right now, is the national government could lead to create this fund that could be public and private fund to offer a massive financial solution for e-buses. So my idea, Neha, is to create a national fund that could bring it, for example, that could buy for a large procurement, 2,000, it's a Brazilian reality, but in India reality, 10, 15, 20, 25,000 buses for 5 years. So this fund could open a procurement to hire 25,000 buses for 5 years. This fund could have guarantees from national governments, private sector, bilateral agencies, Asia Development Bank, World Bank, different national development agencies could bring guarantees for this fund. And this fund could buy 25,000 buses and lease these buses for local operators. And if we announce 25,000 buses for 5 years, of course, we will incentivize the industry to reduce price, to create scale, to have a plan, to be able to plan this, to manufacture bus for 5 years. The local level, I will split the local authorities and local bus operators. Local authorities, I think they have to create local laws that will determine goals to reduce emissions. São Paulo, for example, launched a law 2 years ago when I was secretary here in São Paulo that created a goal for each 5 years to reduce emissions. And stipulated in 2037, the emissions from the public transportation system in São Paulo must be zero. But it has ambitious goals for each 5 years. This law is obligated about technology. The law is not saying about electric buses, hydrogen buses, or biodiesel buses. They are saying, this law is saying, for the operators, you must reduce emissions in 25% in 5 years, in 50% in 10 years, in 75% in 15 years, and zero emissions in 20 years. With this law, we create an obligation from the private operators to buy e-buses. And local operators, they have the role to operate the buses. And so they have to be open to change the mindset for this new technology. And the energy business, they need to understand that it's a new and wonderful business for them. Look that a city as São Paulo with 14,000 buses, it consumes 450 million diesel liters per year. It's an impressive market for energy companies that they are outside just right now. So it's a new market, a new opportunity to make money, and they have to to be a leader, to engage bus operators, local policymakers, national policymakers, to incentivize these stakeholders to adopt e-bus solutions. We have just right now two different kinds of bus manufacturers. We have one group that adopted the e-bus solutions. I know we have Indian manufacturers and especially Chinese manufacturers. They adopted the e-bus solutions. But at the same time, we have a different group of manufacturers that they are continue to bet in biodiesel or natural gas or diesel solutions as Euro 5 or Euro 6 solutions. This kind of business, they are looking for opportunities. If the national governments, the local governments, they announce that they will adopt e-buses, this sector will follow it. Of course, Mercedes-Benz will not be out of this market. But to incentivize them to accelerate e-buses solutions, we need at the same time to create market. Because that, I'm convinced that the real challenge just right now is to create a massive financial solution to start massive procurements for e-buses. And the manufacturers who started to work with e-buses previous, they have an advantage. They have more technology, they have more price, they have better price just right now to adopt e-buses.